Recently, a friend of a friend was asking, I don't mean the same way that a friend of a friend might be asking about something embarrassing like a gentle witch, and it turns out to be yourself. I don't have a gentle witch, by the way. They were asking about which DJI drone to get, and that's quite understandable because there's a fair few of them. For consumers, it didn't seem so long ago when there's just a choice of the big one, the not so big one, and the smaller one. Now we've got the Mini, the Air 2, the Pro 2, the Pro 2 Zoom, and the big one. So deciding which drone to chuck your money at is quite difficult these days, so in this video, I'm going to help you decide how to lose your money. But first of all, a quick shout out to sponsor of this video, Skillshare. If you want to learn stuff, it's an online learning community that offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including photography, video design, drone flying, and much more. But yes, where do we start off with a drone? The easiest way to begin is the complete opposite of the ideal way of washing yourself in the shower, and that's from bottom to top. You don't want to get poo particles on your face, do you? Well, perhaps it's wrong to liken the Mavic Mini to the bottom end of anything, because this is a marvel for being not just mini-like, but light-like. Sneakily sneaking at 1 gram less than 250 grams, and what that means is that it essentially evades the requirements put in place in many countries around the world that necessitates that you register your drone, maybe take a short test, and pay some money for any drone 250 grams or heavier. Because, you don't know what trouble people get up to with a 250 gram drone, but not a 249 gram drone. If someone's going to fly it like a maniac, then they'll do it regardless of the weight. Although chocolate delivering drones are a beautiful thing. And that's why, in Europe at least, from the 31st of December 2020, all drones will need to be registered, including the Mavic Mini. But baguette dodging Brits shouldn't think they're dodging this, as well as massive French breadsticks due to Brexit, because this will be implemented here as well. Still, it offers up more by offering less, even though that doesn't really make any sense at all, because this is the most pocketable drone of them all. Arguably that is the big selling point about it now that the registration evading thing isn't going to be a perk anymore for many. You probably shouldn't be looking to the Mini for resolution anyway. For sure, it's not going to be your thing if 4K is your bottom line, because this offers 2.7K in 25p or 30p, which will give you some nice looking HD footage or some extra room for cropping if you're editing an HD timeline. Some video geeks may decry the lack of 24p, but let's not forget, this is a sub $400 drone. This is not meant for video geeks. It's the mini entry-level consumer drone from DJI that's maxi fun to fly. Video quality is alright, and you get 30 minutes of fly time, so you'll be flying for around as long as the other drones. I've got the Mavic 2 Pro for serious stuff, and I've got one of these also because sometimes it's not always about serious stuff. Sometimes it's about having some light-hearted hijinks in the sky. It's got those clever automated flight modes that make getting cool looking shots easy, but one thing to bear in mind is that because this is the cheapest drone of the bunch, this doesn't have the array of anti-collision, anti-crash features that the more expensive drones have. Crashing, bad. That's where you might want to consider the next level up. The Air 2. The original Air was lighter and smaller than the Air 2. The Air 2 kind of filled out and ended up looking like a small Mavic 2 Pro. It's noticeably heavier than the Air, but not prohibitively so. I wouldn't even say that it takes up much more space in the bag, but the controller does. It's a big brick-like thing. But look, this isn't a controller comparison, it's all about the drones and their cameras, and in that respect, it's hard to knock the Air 2. Technically, you can. It doesn't have any side obstacle sensing sensors, so you can still stack the thing into a tree. It's like the Air in that regard, but the 2 feels more refined, with quieter rotors that don't bother swans much. The old Air sounded like an army of blood-starved mosquitoes. It seems like such a massive step up from the Mini. Yes, it is almost twice the price, but the video specs are massively pumped up. The Air took 4K 24, 25, 30p 12 megapixel stills. The Air 2 takes 4K 60p and 48 megapixel stills. The video quality was taken up a notch with the Air 2. Colours look better and the sharpness is quite insane, almost too sharp. On paper it seems like they've out-pro'd the Pro with the high frame rate 4K options, but the proness comes in other forms. It's just got sensors every bloody where. It's got a smiley face there. You've got the sensors on the front, of course, you've got sensors on the back so you can't crash into stuff when reversing, and you've got sensors on the side, but this doesn't work when you're flying manually. The side sensors will stop this from happening, but if you're flying it manually, you can still crash into something sideways. You've got the bigger sensor and log, and it's just more stable. The Mavic 2 Pro is a bigger, badass thing with a Hasselblad branded lens, but the battery life is lower at 31 minutes versus 34 minutes of the Mavic 2 Air, surprisingly. And the 4K footage doesn't seem as cuttingly sharp as the Air 2, but not to the point where it's a bad thing. As I said, the Air 2 might be a bit too sharp for some tastes. The Air 2 in strong winds definitely feels more, well, airy. Although it's definitely more stable than original Air, when doing time lapses, you can see that it gets shifted from its expected course slightly. Also, although I didn't have them side by side, the Air 2 doesn't have the same low light capability of the Mavic 2 Pro. But look, even though the Air 2 only provides you with de-cine like and not log, you can get some sweet looking footage from it. The Air 2 is the latest tech. It has the latest active track, OcuSync for maximum transmission of 10 km versus 8 km of the Mavic 2, and the latest APAS obstacle avoidance detection. So why get the Mavic 2 Pro? Well, 10-bit log and HDR video. But look, if you like the Mavic 2 Pro sensor, the stability, the log, and you want the 4K 60, then you have to look for something bigger. Namely, the mouthful that is the Phantom 4 Pro version 2. And I don't mean just look at it because that won't give you anything. It's the old school no folding shape. It's heavier, it's bigger, doesn't actually provide longer battery life, and it has a 1-inch sensor with adjustable f2.8 to f11 aperture like the Mavic 2 Pro. There are advantages with the P4P V2, but not all of them are exactly as they might sound. Now, one thing you might see written about the P4P V2 is that it has a mechanical shutter, reducing the amount of rolling shutter. That sounds good, might even make it sound like it has a global shutter, but if you think about it, a mechanical shutter wouldn't be involved for video. The ambiguity kind of leaves it open for misinterpretation. The benefits are not for video, it's for stills. The Phantom 4 Pro V2 will only offer 8-bit color log files versus 10-bit with the Mavic 2 Pro, but the footage you get from it is still stunning nonetheless. It is an interesting set of drones, and I haven't even included the Mavic 2 Zoom in this comparison. Interesting because at the moment it's not like they are a continuous, obvious step up from bottom to top. Some of the cheaper drones offer up better specs, or at least better sounding specs, mainly because they are newer tech, with newer features. As an owner of the Mavic 2 Pro, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything in particular, but for sure, I would be more than happy to take either of the drones on either side of it. And before we go, Skillshare to sponsor this video, an online learning community with thousands of classes online, including this one, especially handy if you want to know more about how to fly a drone. Or you can check out my buddy Craig Whitehead's marvellously insightful tips on how to take better street photography, which you can get full access to in over 25,000 juicy classes about photography, business, design, and much, much more. And you get full access to all of that for just $10 a month, or for the first 1,000 people that click the link in the description box below, you get free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. So what are you waiting for? Click the link. Alright, thanks for watching, see you again, bye bye.